slides.
Okay.
I completely agree with many things that have been said, including that even if we would have the best family policy in the world, as Zane have said, the results will only come after 20 plus years. So the shortage of labor has no contrary or not much relation at the moment what to do in next 20 years where the children have not been born already, or have been born just half of them. So that's why I think Latvia should try, especially this railboat. If you are talking about 10,000, I don't know, most of them will be shoveling. Then probably Latgale or I don't know, unemployed people still would have. And you should think about mobility within Latvian regions. But obviously, there is a need for foreign labor, and with every year larger. By the way, people used to think that there is no immigration into Latvia at the moment. There is from 3 to 5,000, not people, 1,000 coming each year, poor foreigners who have nothing to do with Latvia, who just want to live and work in Latvia. And this trend is increasing from 3 to 5,000. Am I right?
Ilmars
6, thank you.
Tālbraucēju šoferi, yes? How it's in English, tālbraucēju šoferis, I forgot now. Truck drivers, yeah? You mean truck drivers, most of them?
No.
No?
No. I'm talking about immigration, not labor permits that you refer to. But, so how about, there is a certain conservative part among Latvians who is completely against anything related to migration. But how about in the best example from Ilmars pre-war republic who have imported yearly basis about 10 to 15,000 of agricultural workers. So how about another 5,000 to start from the minimum from Belarus who would help the Rail Baltic, or who would help those agricultors who would be going to work in Rail Baltic for better salaries, and then those will be becoming empty. Because 1 million of Ukrainians are busy working in Poland who have these seasonal working agreements. So maybe something similar could be done between Latvian and Belarusian governments. I hope they will be able to agree on this seasonal work, which will be very beneficial for both. But returning to the research, there is the one thing where I would like to oppose to Dr. Vārpiņa, where I do not think the conditions among the families with children in European Union or OSCE countries are so similar that we can put them in one line and simply compare the amounts. By the way, 100 euros in Latvia and Lithuania is not 100 euros of child support in Sweden. You cannot compare. You have to take relative amounts. What amount from GDP is invested? So I think there is. I heard some signs of this misunderstanding that just economic growth alone will fix the demographical problems. And we have many examples where increase of GDP has no impact to fertility, for example, Spain. So that's why I would rather suggest also to what I would add in this research is the relative amount of the not only one child support for third, family support to third child, which are just about 15 to 20% of the all number of families, but rather to use support for second child, and then the differences might be visible. And also we should take into account the wish of families to have children or not to have. I completely agree that if you would have another dozens of thousands of euros, which recently similar amount was given by government of Singapore to their young families, if they do not wish to have children, they will not have. Even if you have big pieces of gold around them. So this is really not working, I agree. So that's why we need to take into account how much the society would like to have the children. And there are differences in European Union. And I think Estonia in particularly can have good example. And let me just focus for one paragraph. Estonia has reformed its family policy already in 2003, 15 years ago. As a result, these 15 years, they have achieved not only almost positive natural increase, it was actually positive 1 year, but about 1 or 1,500 below the zero, which is much better than in Latvia and Lithuania. But they also have achieved much smaller emigration of youth, which we observed in the... By the way, 9 years ago, about 5 of my Estonian friends lost their jobs. So I called them later and I was surprised that none of them have left Estonia. Why? Because the support the Estonian government was paying for having children or having another one in the line was attractive enough that allowed all these families to remain in Estonia and kind of survive the economic downturn, and they don't need to come back from UK, which you know after 5 years or even, yeah, usually it's 5 years. If a family with children lives somewhere else, it becomes very difficult to return. So they have not left. And just to give an idea what we are talking about, the mother salaries are about exactly 100% of previous salaries in extent of 19 months. In addition, the family of 3 children receive monthly support of 500 or 550 euros every month. So, and these families qualifies of 8,000 to 14,000 euro grant to improve their housing, just to mention few of the bricks. So when we compare the family policy, we cannot take one brick out of wall. Well, this is the child support for the third, or another brick of the wall. You have to take whole investments. And Latvia, unfortunately, all these, our recent history proved that we were one of the most the least paying, least investing nation in our family of children, families with children. We usually afforded from 1% to 1.3% of our GDP, where in Europe, in average, it has been close to 2%, and some of the countries with a higher birth rate, it was actually around 3%. So I think it is also a thing that we should think, what will be in Latvia in 2040 and in future. We cannot solve the problems anymore of the current decade with the family policy, but we can work on issues so that the nation is still sustainable in 2 or 3 generations. Thank you.
So thank you very much. What's the question still? So what do you see as the main policies for this demographic situation? I don't mean like in fertility only scope, but one is this support for families, as we understood. So you are also saying we will need to bring in people. Something else?
Yeah, but there are 2 different ways, because one is the lack of labor that we will face very soon, if not already, so maybe this Belarusian seasonal exchange might sound good, because why I mention it, because those seasonal workers from eastern Poland were actually the same Western Belarus that used to be coming, like their grandparents already used to come to work in Latvian farms, so why not their grandchildren continue to the same? If there is this, like, just a matter of how realistic. I would rather ask the minister how realistic is to sign such agreements similar to Poland and Ukraine between Latvia and Belarus on seasonal workers, because the salaries, they would be happy for our smaller salaries compared to what they could earn. And for them, it's not such a, they really would come with the buses and could go months later back or 6 months.